Hey, what's up everybody, Rich Gaming Guy here. So I just received my order from Lukie Games. If you saw my last video on Lukie Games, you saw that I went to their website, looked at what they had to offer, went through all their pricing on their website, and gave my first impressions on them solely off of going to their website. At the end of that video though, I decided I was going to purchase an original Xbox console, get it, and do a video unboxing it, checking out the outside, inside, and also checking out the performance of the console to verify whether or not they actually refurbished their consoles. So I've got my order here. We're going to open it up and dive into it. Alright, so here we have the order from Lukie Games. Now I've just covered up my address here just so that's not all over the internet. I also just covered up, there was a name here. You can still see that it does still say Lukie Games if you get in there close enough. But there was a name and a phone number on here for shipping purposes. I didn't feel right about putting that out there for the world to see, so I just covered that up with some Sharpie. But still, you can see Lukie Games here out of Miami Gardens, Florida. So this is the original Xbox that I picked up. We're going to open this up and see what we got inside. We definitely want to see if this is in fact refurbished. I'm going to be really careful about opening this up. I don't know how much padding's in here. Alright, so here's my packing slip. I'm going to just kind of keep that so we don't have all of my personal information visible, but you can see right here, original Xbox system, original Microsoft Xbox system over here in description. What else here? Don't forget, orders over 25. Yep, alright, cool. So nothing too exciting there, but really good packaging on here. So far, so good. A couple layers of bubble wrap. What do we have here? So here is the controller. We went through the listing though on my previous video, and I knew right off the bat that I wasn't getting a original Xbox controller. So I'm, not worked up about the fact that this isn't, original, but it actually seems quite nice. Better than most of the generic Xbox controllers out there. Of course, it's got to work, so we'll just set that aside for right now. I'm going to take this out of the box. Let's also grab these. Alright, so here is the Xbox itself. We've got, looks like original cables here. Is this original? Let's see. Not sure if that one is, but this one definitely is here for the AV connection. So let's take a look at our Xbox console here. So right off the bat, I see that there are some little blemishes on the outside. I'm not worked up about that. That's not something that I get too bent out of shape about, because this isn't a brand new console, and I've always said that in my past videos. Any videos I've done on refurbished consoles, I don't expect the outside to be pristine condition. It does look really clean. A little bit of dust down here in the ribs, not a big deal though. A couple little blemishes, no big deal. I could probably buff those out actually, but you definitely don't want to do too much work on that, because you can end up kind of sanding down the finish here. Then you end up with like a super dull, or depending on what you use, sometimes it could be a shinier spot, because this is a very matte black sort of finish here. So take a look at the front here. Everything does appear to be in decent shape. I'm not seeing like any dust in any of the controller connections there. Let's take a look at the side. I can see in there, I'm not seeing any dust or buildup. Take a look on the back. So being really familiar with these, I've done a lot of refurbishing of the original Xbox consoles. If you just do a surface clean, usually looking at the fan here, you'd be able to see dust inside there. I'm really not seeing any dust whatsoever on the back. Everything here looks like it was cleaned extremely well. In fact, I see just like a little bit of, looks like they just kind of wiped it down there, which is good. But you can see like a little smear of like microfiber. Let me see what that is. Yeah, a little bit of dust there, but you can see it looks like they used like some sort of a coating or something like that to kind of wipe this down, which is good. I mean, it's an indication that they actually cleaned it. Definitely not dust. Looks like maybe they just sprayed some cleaner on a rag and then just maybe didn't buff it all off there. But so far so good. Now let's flip this over, because the bottom of a original Xbox console. If this has been opened in the past at any point in time, you're going to have these screw holes exposed here, which we see. So we know that this was opened up. These also don't appear to be the original feet on here, which is fine. That's something that usually, and I can actually peel this one up, usually the original ones end up having to be replaced, especially now we are 20 plus years from when this was originally released. So down here, you'll notice, I'll take this one completely off just so you can see, the screw head's down here. So I have one of these somewhere. Of course, I've got the wrong head in here, so I'm going to have to find the right one. Alright, there's the winner. So I'm going to put that head right into the screwdriver here. And we're going to start opening these up. So there are 4 on the outside and then 1 and 1 here in the center. So you know what? I'm making the mistake I made last time. Before I open this up, I'm getting too ahead of myself. Let me plug this in and make sure the damn thing works first, because I did that last time, and then when it didn't work, you know, everybody has the ability to say that I messed it up. So almost made that mistake again because I'm just getting too excited to check this out. Let's plug the sucker in and test this out. Alright, so everything is set up here. I'm just going to go ahead and power this on now. And let's see what we've got. Right off the bat, I see it, I hear it. Glimpse there just so you can see exactly what I'm working with on screen. You can see we are able to actually set the clock. So I'm going to bring it back over here. I'm going to do exactly that. Actually, I'll just confirm it. I don't really care about the time. We're going to eject this. Looking at the tray, looks to be in good shape. Now I'm going to drop the camera, if I can, down so you guys can see in here. Actually, I'll just lift this up since there's no disc in here. A little bit hard to see in here. Let me just powered it off by mistake there, just hitting this, but you can see right in here. Because I'm familiar with refurbishing these, if this wasn't cleaned out or if the belt was bad, you'd be able to see all that because you can see the belt right there. It looks like a brand new belt. So right off the bat, I'm really impressed by all this so far. So I will zoom this back out and let's load the disc in. Of course, I just powered this off while lifting it up. Alright, so I actually had Halo 2 ready to go in here, but I looked at the bottom side and it seemed to be in really kind of scuffed up condition, so I don't want to risk that, you know, hindering the performance here. So I've got this Legends of Wrestling game for Xbox. Used to play this a whole lot on the Xbox when I was a kid, so we're going to give this a go. I just inserted it in. It seems to be doing its thing there. We're going to jump over to the screen. Hopefully it starts to actually launch the game, and there you can see it does seem to be launching without any issues. We're going to let it kind of jump through the cutscene there and you know, hopefully get into a quick little match, just to at least demo the Xbox. Going to actually skip ahead only because I know that it's going to be some copyrighted audio there that I don't want to deal with. So let's see what we got going on here. All seems to be good here so far. Alright, so we're going to do Hogan versus Jimmy Snuka. No issues here so far. Alright, so I just skipped past the little intros there. Don't remember the controls for this at all. Alright, so I've seen enough. No issues with the Xbox, so let's open it up and take a closer look. Alright, so I just am ejecting the disc simply because we are going to be flipping this over and I don't want it to get dislodged somewhere in there. So I will unplug the controller, set that aside, and actually unplug the power source. Get all of that out of the way. So this is just the foot that I took off previously when I was about to open the sucker up. So I'll start here in the center. And now what we'll do is we'll flip this over carefully, and this should just release on its own. Let's see. Did I get all the screws? Yeah. Okay. There we go. So these actually are kind of what keeps it compressed together, so stuck on there pretty good, which is, you know, good sign. So taking a look in here, let's see. Let's take a closer look down into the actual console. And I'm doing this all, usually I'd have like fancier cuts, but I want to do this in a way that you can see that I'm not editing this or anything like that. So I'm not seeing any dust. Actually, it looks like the tiniest layer of dust right here, maybe. I'm really searching to find it, though. Really not seeing anything concerning here at all. Tiniest little bit of dust, but you know, the slightest bit of dust isn't going to be a concern. When I opened up my DK Oldies N64, there was just tons of dust across all the surfaces. Not seeing any dust here, nothing here. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper though. So I have to switch out the head on my screwdriver because inside here everything is much smaller than the screws on the back side. Alright, so I'm going to just take that screw out. And there should be 3 holding this down. It's been a while since I was in one of these. There's one down here. And now they aren't using original screws. I will say that. Not that I'm, you know, fussy about stuff like that. As long as they serve the purpose, that's fine. But they aren't original. Just worth mentioning for those that, you know, want everything 100%. I'm not one of those, but let's see. I'm going to take this tool because I'm going to disconnect a couple things in here. Alright, so I've got one side out, and I'll just pull this up so you can take a look down there. Not seeing any dust. I actually see the screw that I did drop in there. Should be able to pick it up with the magnetic tip here. There we go. So, taking a look inside, it's really clean. Again, being familiar with these, usually dust all caked up in here. All over pretty much everything you'll see dust, especially down here across where your controller connections go. Not seeing much. I see a little bit down in that little nook and cranny there. You know, not a huge deal though. Again, I'm not expecting it to be in immaculate condition, but I would say that it's pretty close. So we'll take out the drive now, and I'll just disconnect these in the back here. And we could just set this completely aside, but this, when we open this up, and actually I can do that here again, because if we just press down right here, it ejects the drive. So now that we have this completely open, if you look down there, it's perfect condition, just totally mint. It looks like they actually replaced the belt here, which is probably a penny in cost, but the fact that they did it means a lot, because I've seen so many people not even bother, and this can be replaced just by opening this up, you know, while everything's installed, so you don't even have to take the lid off or anything like that. But again, these are like, I would say probably a fraction of a cent. They're so cheap. And these belts do wear out over time. They get dry, they start to crack, and that's when you start seeing disk drives that get stuck closed, or are really delayed, or like catchy, or just, you know, they end up not fully closing, not fully opening, and you end up with disk read errors on your Xbox if, you know, you have that situation where it's starting to deteriorate. So they did a great job refurbishing that. Now let's take a look at the board here. I want to look at the capacitors. I want to look at the overall board condition here to verify that, you know, what we have here is indeed refurbished. And just at first glance, I believe it is. We're not seeing any dust in here, so at the very least they cleaned it. But I'm not seeing any swollen capacitors here. Everything just looks to be in exceptional condition so far. So I'm going to go down and actually take a look down here at the clock capacitor, though, because that's something that I know is a huge issue with the original Xbox consoles. So it's hard to get in here. There is a little bit of dust actually right up here. Again, not a huge deal that there's a little dust. The majority of the board, I would say 99% of it, is in extremely clean condition. Tiny little bit of dust up here on the fan blades, and I'm talking just at the tip there. Actually, I can't even say just on the tip of all of the fan blades. Literally on 2 of the fan blades here, I'm seeing a little bit of dust. Again, just being super nitpicky here, but rubbing my finger on here, and I know that this could potentially cause issues. So for those that are overly concerned, I know the risk when I open this up. It's a little dusty, like if I were to rub it, but that's because anybody that's going to clean this is going to do a good job vacuuming, but they're not going to really like scrub the board with, you know, a wet paper towel or anything like that. You would never want to do that. So, you know, yeah, there's always going to be the cause for some minor little bit of dust to be on there, but really not bad shape. Now a little bit more dust down here. So clock capacitor is something that I know to look for. This one's been replaced. I can see that from where I'm standing right here. Again, a little bit hard on camera to show you guys in there. You know, I can zoom in, but very hard to actually see because I can't get the camera down in here where we'd be able to kind of show a elevation shot of like the side. But I can see that it was replaced, which is good. Nothing, again, is swollen or at all concerning within here. So it definitely seems like they did a phenomenal job actually going in here and just triple checking everything, make sure that everything is actually in refurbished and good condition. And refurbished doesn't mean that you have to just go in and just do an overhaul and just replace every single thing, you know, in existence within. That's not what refurbishing should be anyways. Refurbishing is going through and making sure that anything that looks like it could be on its way out, at least my interpretation of it is anything that could be a issue in the near future, you know, gets addressed. And everything here looks to be in great shape. So now I'm not going to go in here and actually test every single thing on this Xbox console. If there was anything that made me concerned, then maybe I'd do some additional testing, but I'm not going to worry about like player 2, 3, and 4. I don't have additional controllers to do the testing with those ports, but there's no indication here that there's any sort of issues within at all. Everything is wired correctly. Everything seems to be in great shape. I'm not going to, you know, take this apart any further because, in all honesty, it's been so long since I took one apart that I'm not convinced I would get it back together in the same condition that it's in currently. So I opened it up more than, you know, the average consumer would, and I haven't seen anything in here that is a cause for concern. You know, just minor dust that, you know, is just kind of what to be expected within an old console here, but nothing caked up, nothing that looks like, you know, dust bunnies have been in here for the last 20 years, just, you know, growing their family. No issues in here at all. So really happy with what I found, really happy with the performance of this Xbox console. And we have the top off. I'm going to zoom out just so we can take a look at the top once again, because Yeah, there's some spots on here that I wish weren't here. If, in a perfect world, trying to get the light there. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have these little blemishes there. Same thing down here, just a couple minor things, but for a console in the condition it was advertised to be in, I'm not worried about that at all. Refurbished isn't like new condition. This is now 22 years old, give or take. So not at all concerned with that. Not overly picky. So really happy with this. I'm going to actually use this, in fact, and enjoy some games, because Xbox doesn't have a huge catalog of games that are backwards compatible. So some of my favorite games I still can't play on my Xbox Series X. So this is going to come in handy. I'm happy to have a console like this that is in the advertised condition. All right, guys, so we opened up this Xbox original console from Lukie Games, and I have to say, it's so refreshing to see that there's a company out there that's actually doing what they say they're doing, refurbishing consoles, opening them up, cleaning them, maintaining them, and they're doing an excellent job at that. So wanted to get that out of the way. First off, give them a round of applause, because this is something that you should expect when you order something in this condition, advertised this way. However, we've seen elsewhere that's not happening. So really happy with Lukie Games so far. So we opened this console up. You saw that it was well packaged, bubble wrap around the console, also a layer on top and bottom to protect it further while it's in transit. You could tell they take the extra care in packaging. They care about what they're shipping out. They want to make sure it's going to get to you in good shape. So thumbs up there. So I opened this up. Console externally, I won't say that it's in phenomenal shape by any means. We saw some blemishes, some little dings here and there. They weren't overly buffed out, which is actually a good thing, and I'll get to that in a second. But I'm happy with the overall condition externally, because I didn't expect it to be in like new condition. I think sometimes people forget that these consoles are 20 plus years old. This one's right around 20, could be even less depending on when it was manufactured, but still 2 decades of use, even if it was sitting on a shelf for the majority of that, possibly. I don't expect it to be in excellent shape. And when I did my video on DK Oldies, and I opened up the N64 that I got with them, you saw on that video too, I talked about the condition externally, talked about the fact that that N64 did have some dings, but I didn't find it offensive. I wasn't worked up about it, because I go into purchasing these refurbished retro consoles knowing that they're not going to be in phenomenal shape externally. So just want to put that out there, make sure everybody knows I'm being fair and, assessing it the same way. So externally, not perfect. And I talk about how they didn't over buff out the scratches or dings on the surface. Now, with an Xbox original console, the surface is a matte black finish. So if you go in and you start buffing things out, what you're going to do is you're going to either make it really dull in that specific area if you overdo it, or you can make it too shiny. So either way you go, you're likely going to make those dings or imperfections stand out more. So I like the fact that they just kind of cleaned it up, did a great job at cleaning it up, but they didn't buff it. They didn't make it more noticeable, because I think that the consumer could, if they want to, go about, doing some buffing to it and making it either, shinier or duller or whatever they want to do there, or just leave it exactly as it is, which is by no means offensive. So when I actually have other Xbox consoles here, didn't realize that I did actually, but I have one that I kept for myself when I used to refurbish these, and I actually cleaned it up, I polished it, and I put on a coating over the top that actually kind of blends in the imperfections with the rest of the surface. So that's something that people can do themselves, because not everybody's going to desire the same sort of finish or look to it. Some people don't care, some people are picky. I'm a little picky, just because with that specific console, I know exactly how to go about making it the way that I want it to look. So I like the fact that they didn't take that initiative for you. They let you just, have it as it's advertised, refurbished condition, not like new condition, and you can make of it what you want. So that's a thumbs up for me. Now, I plugged this in. What we got with the Xbox console was a power supply cable, AV cable, and a controller. AV cable was original, power supply was not original, but it was high quality. I have no issue with that. Power supply is a power supply for the most part, unless you're getting something super cheap. It wasn't, though. It was a high quality power supply cable. Now the controller was third-party generic, and I came to that conclusion before checking out with this order. We went through the website in that previous video, and I talked about how I believed that I was going to get a generic third-party controller based on the images on the listing. We had the original Xbox console there, but we had a controller that looked original, except it did not have the X in that center medallion on the controller, which is an indication that it's a third-party generic controller. So I know that going in. They could be more straightforward with that for those that don't know what to look for and are maybe just kind of rushing through the checkout process, don't pick up on that. Then they open it up and they could be a little bit annoyed that they didn't get an original Xbox controller. I'll give them, you know, a little mark against them for that, because they should make it just a little bit more noticeable. Maybe put that in the description. They don't say it's original, but they don't not say it's original. So they can improve on just being a little bit more straightforward in that regard. Now, the functionality of the controller was good. When I jumped into the game on the Xbox and I jumped into Legends of Wrestling, the original game, the X button was binding. So it was bound up for maybe 4 or 5 hits on the button, and then I felt it just break free, and it was functioning perfectly, just like an original Xbox controller would. Did take a couple tries though on the X button. I had to look at it and make sure I was actually pressing down on the X button correctly. So that's not really Lukie Games' fault, but worth mentioning. That's why people generally don't like generic third-party controllers, because the quality is not the same as an original controller. An original Microsoft Xbox controller is not going to have binds on there or sticky buttons unless it's been spilled on, but that falls into that refurbishing process where it shouldn't be in that condition when you pick it up. So I'll mention that. Not a huge deal though, and I do feel like I knew about that going in. So worked out in the end, but worth mentioning. So talking about the performance here, we didn't see any lags, delays, skips in video intros to the video games or in the gameplay experience. I didn't jump into it extensively in the video here, but I did play a couple matches with that game, tried out a couple other games. Everything fired up perfectly, no issues, nothing like that. I originally planned to play Halo 2, but I noticed some scratches on the backside of the disc, so I didn't want to run the risk of having a disc read error on here. So I went with some games that actually had exceptional condition on the backside of the disc. Only showed one in the video just to try to keep this video shorter, or short as I can. So good experience there with the performance. So flipped it over, opened it up. Now the backside of the Xbox console, just so everybody knows, you want to be able to see the 2 screw heads, and generally the feet on the bottom will be replaced. If they did put originals, then they'd have to put new adhesive down to restick them. That's the only way to open up these consoles. If you look at the back and everything's intact and it looks 100% original, like nobody's been in there, nobody's been in there. You will likely see the 2 screw heads through the labels, pop through on the 2 labels on the underside of your console. Some people will use a heat gun, peel the labels back carefully, but you can usually see wrinkles in it, especially over time. I haven't seen anybody do it flawlessly where it's not noticeable that it was peeled back. Looks more aesthetically pleasing than the screw heads popping through, but is what it is there. The intention from Microsoft was to make it noticeable when these are opened, and I think that's a good thing. We should be able to see that they were opened at one point in time. So inside there, exceptional condition. Now, was there 0 dust inside the console? No, there was still a fine little layer of dust. I won't even say layer. There was a slight dusting of dust here and there on the actual motherboard. A couple spots I pointed out on camera around the clock capacitor, there was a little bit of dust there, but that's me looking with a fine-tooth comb trying to find dust in there. It's nothing that is going to impact performance or anything like that. And I mentioned on the fan, 2 of the fan blades had a little bit of dust caked on or stuck to the edges. Again, this is me going through with a magnifying glass, basically looking for signs of dust. Now, they're not cleaning and scrubbing the boards under here. They're vacuuming them out or blowing air over them to, free up any dust, get that dust out of there. So you're still going to have the finest little bits of dust. That's just part of the process when you have a 20-plus-year-old console. Never expected there to be no dust whatsoever, but there's no dust bunnies in there. There's no, quarter inch, half inch of caked in dust like this had never been opened ever. No tar from like cigarettes being in the air, any of that stuff. We've seen some wild stuff inside consoles that have just sat for 20 years or so. So none of that here at all. Everything was really well maintained within. Took a look at the capacitors. Nothing looked off about any of those. They clearly checked for anything that would be bulging or showing signs that something was going to give out or be a problem. And the clock capacitor was replaced. I looked at that closely, couldn't really zoom in on it well in the video here. The tops all pretty much look the same, but nothing was swollen or concerning at all. And the fact that they replace the clock capacitor is huge, because that is the biggest issue with original Xbox consoles. If you're not familiar with that, I have a video on what they actually look like when they burst. When they burst, they pretty much fry everything within the console, make it totally useless. It won't function at all, and it's not a matter of if that happens, it's a matter of when that happens, because these capacitors do eventually leak, and the fluid within will ruin everything inside of a console. So if you're getting stuff that's refurbished on an Xbox console, and you look inside and the capacitors haven't been addressed, then that's not truly refurbished, because that is literally the most important thing to do inside of an original Xbox console. They did that though. They did an excellent job. No issues there at all. Minus, again, the fine little bit of dust there, which was not an issue, did not impact performance, will not impact performance. So everything about this console was very good condition. Very happy with everything here, and clear signs that they did refurbish and that they did actually do an excellent job at refurbishing this console. So at this point, I would definitely recommend Lukie Games. Now, does that mean that they are the best price out there for consoles, games, accessories? No, definitely not. I mean, prices are what they are. My concern with this company, other companies out there, has never been about price point. The prices are higher here. They have more overhead. I understand that. You're not going to compare that to somebody at a garage sale selling the same console in used condition. You're not going to compare it even to eBay, where maybe an individual's on eBay refurbishing consoles. They don't have, a warehouse. They don't have employees, so they can charge less. We know that going in. We are just evaluating whether or not they are advertising one thing and delivering another. That is not happening here with Lukie Games, in my experience at least. So I can say that they seem to be very honest, reputable, they do good work, and they really seem to care what the customer's experience is here. So I haven't interacted with them personally. They aren't sponsoring any videos. I have no relationship with them whatsoever here, and I feel I have to say that because I know there's going to be people out there that just assume I'm somehow sided with Lukie Games over TK Oldies and any of the other competitors out there, and in fact I am. But I am because I had experiences with both, so I can compare them off of my firsthand experience. So let me know though in the comment section what your experience has been with Lukie Games. In fact, I hadn't even heard of them until about 2 weeks ago. So this was a pleasant surprise, and another pleasant surprise to open up a console and find it in exceptional condition. So let me know again what you guys think of Lukie Games. If you have experiences with them, whether they're positive or negative, let me know in the comment section below. I'm interested to hear from everybody. I enjoy the interactions from these videos, whether positive or negative. It just gives me a larger understanding of what other people are experiencing out there. So let me know in the comment section if you enjoyed the video, found this content interesting, helpful, any of that. Give me a thumbs up. It's a huge help to me here on YouTube. If you didn't like this video or you didn't agree with me here, let me know in the comment section why. And hit the subscribe button if you haven't already to stay up to date on all future videos here on the Retro Gaming Guy YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for your support. I'll see you in the next video.